Recognize Mr. Carter from Louisiana for 5
Thank
minutes.
you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Moore, you mentioned in your earlier comment about IBM and the efforts that you have with HBCUs. Can you expound on that, as we know that HBCUs have been the target of many cyber attacks?
Yes, indeed. So we developed a program where rolling out these skill sets, or these CLCs, they're cyber leadership centers, in HBCUs around the country. So there are roughly in 11 different states, but 20 of them. And working with the faculty and working with a liaison within the HBCU to develop and to share curricula that we've established that is very professional grade in terms of our own expertise that we bring to it. But we recognize that there's a tremendous amount of talent everywhere, and that we really have to pursue, with the skills gap that we see in cybersecurity, it's kind of, as someone mentioned on the panel here, a team sport, and we need all hands on deck. And we also need to ensure that communities are not left behind, that everyone has an equal opportunity to be able to learn the skill sets and have the credentials necessary to work in this important field.
So you mentioned 10 states or 10 institutions. I don't know if it's 10 states or 10 institutions, but whatever the case, for HBCUs that are out there that are in need of the services that you indicated, is there more bandwidth to include additional ones? Is there any directions you can give me? I represent Louisiana with a rich group of HBCUs and would love to have IBM partner or look at opportunities to be a part of that. Any direction you can give?
Well, it's 20 centers across 11 states, and we'd be happy to talk to you about what you would like to see happen there in Louisiana.
Fantastic, thank you. Mr. O'Neill, with the emergence of AI, are you concerned about what this means for academia, for students using ChatGPT or others for term papers or research, or the validity of students following an exercise or an assignment without cheating, if you will, through AI?
Yeah, I'm concerned about that, but it also enables students also to be more empowered with more information and maybe to even be more effective in what they're learning and so forth. So they're going to have to learn different in a world with AI. Like, they're going to have to learn to use or write prompts to get the information out of AI, and they're going to have to learn to look at the sources that are cited in the output from the AI to validate that they're not receiving a hallucination, hard word for me to say, and so forth. So
what about the student that asks a direct question to ChatGPT and insert the answer based exactly on what was asked? What about, how do we determine the validity of that? How do we make sure that students are not misusing? While we understand that it's a great tool for research, and anybody can chime in. Ms. Moore or Mr. Stamos, look like you guys.
Yeah, I would just say it's like a mini arms race, because you have the students that want to use it, some of them, for nefarious purposes, but then you have the counter programs that academia is using to identify when it's being used and so forth. So right now, I was just reading in the news about this, where the AI to detect the use of AI.
Got about 55 seconds. Do you mind sharing the mic, Mr. Stamos and Ms. Moore?
Yes, I mean, I teach 2 classes at Stanford, and this is a huge discussion among the faculty, is how do you give an essay in the modern world? I mean, I think one of the great things about AI is it is going to even out the playing field, in that people who have lacks of, business email skills, perfect English and such, the AI will be a huge help, but you don't want to give kids that crutch as they get there. And this is gonna become much harder over the next couple of years, because AI is being turned on in default, so students won't have to go actively cheat. They will get in trouble for not going and turning off things that are turned on by default in Google Docs or in Microsoft Word and such. And so I think it's a huge problem for both higher and lower education.
Ms. Moore?
I would just say that the space is evolving, and that there are many tools that are out there to detect this in papers and research work and that sort of a thing. But you have to remember that generative AI looks and scans all of the work that's out there, and a lot of people have a lot of work out there. And so being able to defend against that, and also being able to make sure that there is critical thinking happening in universities and critical thinking happening still for students, even though they have this, magnificent tool. I recently had a friend whose daughter had to appeal the university because she was accused of that, of having used a generative large language model. And in reality, she was very prolific on the internet, and it was picking up her own work. So we have a ways to go with these technologies.
Thank you. My time is evolved.